Hello! March is finally over, and to be honest, I had a bit of a busy one. I moved house throughout March, especially towards the last part, and I didn't think I would actually have much time to read, but I managed to read seven books this month, most of it in the first sort of half, actually. And we're going to start by looking at the first one I read of the month, Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut. This was our book club pick for March, and I've been wanting to read this for ages. I've never read any Vonnegut before, and I didn't really know what to expect. It's about Billy Pilgrim, who he he's been in the war. He's got out of it, and he is now living his life in a very non-linear way. He's jumping back and forth between all these different points in his life. It's ever since he was abducted by aliens. This is a book about post-traumatic stress, although they didn't call it back then when it was written. It's an anti-war book. It's a book about what it means to have gone through what people like Billy Pilgrim, what people like Vonnegut went through. The first time I read it, well, when I read it, I didn't love it. I found it quite difficult to get into. I think I think because I was reading it quite quickly and to so that I could read it for could talk about it at book club. I think that there's a lot in here that you need to maybe take quite slowly. We'd maybe even take notes that you can really get under the skin of what this is trying to say. And when we were in book club and talking about it, some people just couldn't get on with it, didn't like it, gave up. Some people read it and loved it. I'm probably in the middle. I don't know that I loved it, but the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. So the whole sort of futility of life, what Vonnegut feeling after being in this war, of why are we doing any of this? It's all just gonna lead to the same thing. There's a brilliant thing about in the very beginning where he talks about his character says that he's going to write a book. He's going to write a book about war, and somebody says, well, you may as well write a book about an iceberg because it doesn't matter what you write, it's always going to be there, it's always going to happen. And that is kind of what this sort of overarching feeling that you get out of this book is just maybe it's pessimism, I don't know, but it's just you're left thinking, why do we bother trying, because it's all just going to end up the same. I'm not sure that's the message I wanted from it. So, I mean, I was already anti-war. I don't like war. This didn't change that. It didn't increase that sort of feeling in me. I just, I don't know. I think it's a very clever book. I think so actually somebody in book club said maybe they weren't clever enough for it, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's an excellent book to study. I think it's an excellent book that that demonstrates metaphor and sentence structure and simile and all these things that make writing, so interesting. I think if you're looking to be entertained, not the one. After I read Kurt Vonnegut's, I read Sweat by Emma Healey. So I had Emma Healey here for an event with Emma Van Straaten, who I will be telling you about a little bit more shortly. And the thing with events is when I chair them, I have to read the books, I have to interview the authors, and so I knew that I was going to be interviewing Emma, and so I saved this for sort of further down the road. So I've had it a little while. It's about, well, so actually, first of all, before I go into this one, Emma Healey wrote Elizabeth is Missing, which is up there somewhere. And that was a huge hit years ago. So you will know possibly that book, but you may not have noticed Sweat. Sweat is about Cassie. Cassie is a physical trainer, PT in a gym. And one day a client comes in who is supposed to be with her manager, Steph. Nobody can find her. So Tommy says to Cass, can you take this guy named Liam? He's blind. And Cassie walks out and says, sure, it's fine, no problem. And there is Liam, and it's her ex-boyfriend. And not just an ex, it was a bad relationship. He coercively controlled her. He made her feel bad about herself, about the things that she was eating. And, it was not a good time for her. And there he is back, but he can't see. So he doesn't know it's her. And so what she does in that moment is say, okay, I'll train you. She puts on a voice. She pretends to be Steph, the manager. And so she becomes a bit obsessed with Liam in that she wants to know what he's doing, where he is. Because as he's reappeared in her life, she's starting to get the feeling that somebody is following her. Could it be Liam? Could he have actually tracked her down? Could he be faking the blindness? Could he be playing with her? So she starts to question all of these things. And he tells her that he's not looking after himself as well anymore. So previously he was a fitness freak. He was out running all the time. He was watching what he eats. He was watching what Cassie ate. And he says to her, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, it's really hard to look after myself now that I'm blind. I'm not adjusting well. So she tracks him down. She goes to his old flat. She sees his car and it hasn't been used. So, okay, maybe it hasn't been using it. Maybe this blindness is real, caused by a tumour, by the way. And then she goes into his flat because she's still got a key. And she goes through his bins. And at the bottom of the bins, takeaway sort of packets. So yeah, he's not lying, or he's really playing her. And what you get is this story, like it sort of rises in tension all the way through about Cassie, and you're just like you're watching her and you're cringing and you're saying, just leave him alone. This man was not good for you. He was bad. Just run away. Like, do not get drawn back in. And yet it makes perfect sense, because who is following her? And if she's following him, then she's in control now, right? I really enjoyed it. It's just one of those ones that will keep you going through to the end as you try and work out whether Liam's telling the truth, and if he isn't, how he's getting away with it. And if he is, then who is following Cassie? And could it still be Liam? So when Emma Van Straaten came in as well and talked about this immaculate body. This one is actually a little bit similar in a way, in that we've got a woman whose behaviour is slowly descending into, I'm not going to say madness, but it's beyond what we would say is acceptable in modern culture. So Alice has moved to London. She's working as a paralegal, and before she's working as a paralegal, she's taken a job as a cleaner just to get by, get a bit of pocket money in. And she starts working every Wednesday morning at Tom's house. She never meets Tom. The key is left in a certain place. She goes in, she tidies up, she gets a message from him saying, thank you very much, can you come again next week, here's a tip, etc., etc. but she never meets him. But she starts to build up this picture of him in her mind as to what he is like. And in that picture, he becomes the perfect man for her. And she starts reading, like, he leaves his laptop there, so she goes through his inbox. And she starts to get to know him, or at least she thinks she starts to get to know him. And she's basically stalking him. By the time we meet Alice, she's working as a paralegal, but she still takes Wednesday mornings off of work. She tells her boss that she's going to therapy. She's not. She's going to Tom's. She's still cleaning his apartment, and she's still sort of trying to work out the best way that she can possibly just casually bump into him and go, "Oh, hi, yeah, really weird. I clean your flat," and then they'll fall in love. That's what's going on in her head. And so she engineers these chance meetings, but they never quite go. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they just don't quite go as she's expecting them to go. And it's really like, as she responds to those situations, as she descends further and further into unacceptable behaviour, it's just engrossing. It just keeps you turning the page. And it's like watching a car crash happen in real time. Because, and this is something I talked about in the event, that first time when she arranges to bump into him, it could have just been a meet cute. And if she'd bumped into him and, he'd been attracted to her and they'd gone on a date, and it was a weird thing, like 60 years down the line, they're talking to their grandkids and they're saying, "Oh, funny story, your gran used to clean for me. I never met her, bumped into her one week at a museum, we went on a date, and it just went from there, and isn't that lovely?" And then actually, 20 years later, I found out that she'd purposefully sort of engineered that meeting so that we would talk to each other and we would find each other. That would be a funny story, years later. That's one of those sort of family law type anecdotes. But in this case, it's unwanted. It is not requited. And so it becomes sinister. It becomes creepy. And somehow Alice has never been told where to draw the line. Never been told where the line is. There's issues with her mother. She's got issues with her own physicality, with her sister, in fact, as well. But there's a lot going on for Alice. And the ending is just... I can't tell you what the ending is, but I really, really enjoyed it. This one is This Immaculate Body by Emma Van Straaten. So, after reading three books that I had to read, even though I enjoyed them all in different ways, I had to read them for book clubs, for events, etc. I thought I'm going to read something that I want to read, that I've sort of been on my list for a little while. And so I went with Wreck by Catherine Newman. Now, as you know by now, I do take the dust jackets off, so I don't have them. I don't have it here. So this is what it looks like. It's Catherine Newman. If you don't know her, she wrote We All Want Impossible Things and Sandwich. They are generally, and this is another one by her that's kind of similar to those in that it features a middle-aged woman sort of just going through or about to go through menopause. I think they call it the perimenopause. It's in America, like she's a mum. She's always a mum. The family around her. I am so not the target market for these books, but I adore Catherine Newman's writing. But in this one, the main character, Rocky, is again, she's kind of got that sort of, it's a bit like in Sandwich, where she's the sandwich generation. She's got her kids who are older, her son lives not with them, her daughter is basically self-sufficient at this point, but still lives with them. Her dad has come to stay because her mum has not long died. She's looking after him. She's got this weird skin condition that has appeared, but she's always had problems with her skin, so she's kind of dealing with it. She's not worried, but it might be cancer, but she'll deal with it. She's like, there's a car accident, and a young man dies after his car is hit by a train. And Rocky, and to a certain extent her daughter Willa, become slightly obsessed with this accident because it could have been her son. Like, this guy that was in the car went to school with her son. And so she starts sort of becoming obsessed. But it's weird because it's not the main thrust of the story. It's there. Like, there is no one thing that is kind of the main driver. It's just this sort of window into this period in Rocky's life. And it's about anxiety and how she worries that she's passed that on to Willa. So Willa has this anxiety too. And I mean, there's a really lovely moment quite early on where Willa says, well, no, Mum, I am anxious, but you helped me carry it. You didn't give it to me. You've helped me with it. Which is a really nice moment, and it kind of sort of assuages Rocky of this guilt that she has. Catherine Newman kind of writes these characters, and she returns to the same themes and the same characters and the same settings, it feels like. Although I say the same characters, they're not. They are new characters every time, but it feels like they're similar. And as I said, I do adore Catherine's writing. I'm ready for something new, I think. I mean, I will read the next one by her, but I'd love to see her take on something else. I want to see, you know, what can she do? I mean, maybe not, but like with a murder mystery or something that's got a bit more meat to the plot. Like, is there something else that these characters can look at? I think if you've read Catherine Newman before, you're not going to get anything new out of this book. But it's still just really well written. And, you know, if you want something that you know you're going to enjoy, pick up Wreck by Catherine Newman. So by this point of the month, I've read several books I have to read. I've read one book that I really wanted to read. All of them were out. They were all available. And part of what I have to do is read books that are not out so that I can tell you about them and so that I can plan for our subscriptions and for our events in the shop and all these sort of things. So by this point, I was like, right, I'm going to have to read something. I need to start looking forward to May and seeing what I'm going to put in our subscriptions in May. So I've picked up 5 by Ilona Bannister. And this is the proof copy. It doesn't look like this. It looks like this. And this is such an interesting book. It's about a death that happens on a platform of a train station. And we're told, sentence 1, that somebody's going to die. But we don't know who. And these sections on the train station take place in real time. It tells you that, here's an example. Turn your attention now to the stairs descending to the platform. A small child struggles out of his mother's grasp. He shrieks. He bolts towards the tracks. He looks over his shoulders and sees his stricken mother. You kind of get everything in detail. Like, this is minute 1. And you know everything that's happening on that platform in that point. And in what order it all happens. So you got that bit about the mother and the son, but you've also got the bits about the other people on the platform and what's going through their mind. It kind of gives you the 5 candidates. One of these 5 is going to die. And then but it goes through other people. It talks about the other sort of people. This guy, bad back guy, he's not going to die. You know that he's not going to die. But he heard quite early on, like, the phone, a phone ends up on the tracks, and he's like, I'm not going to help with that. Somebody says, oh, can you help? No, I've got a bad back. He says, he doesn't have a bad back. And then later on, there's a problem, like, there's an actual emergency on the tracks. And he's torn between, I need to help, but also I've told them, well, I've got a bad back. Do I reveal that I was lying about that? So it's all about the sort of thoughts that go through our heads. And the kind of omniscient narrator is talking directly to you, and he's telling you about this death that is going to come. But he's not telling you who, or she is not telling you who is going to die. And he kind of is like, every now and then it says, well, who do you think? Which one of these 5 do you think is going to die? And which one do you want to die? I mean, I know you don't want anyone to die, but somebody's going to. So if you had to pick, who would it be? And it really makes you question, like, that sort of morality. It's a bit like that old trolley problem. You know, you've got the 3 people tied up on the tracks, and a train is heading towards them. You can save their lives by pulling the lever, but it goes to another track and kills somebody else. So, you know, are you making an active decision as to who dies or not? It's not quite the same thing in this, but you have that sort of, if you got to decide who would you pick, and then when you find out who does die, are you happy about that? Are you sad about that? Why? Who deserves to live? Who doesn't deserve to live? And it really sort of makes you question your own thought processes in these moments. And it's sort of shining a light on, you know, when we read crime thrillers, we read murder mysteries, we're like, oh, who's going to die? First of all, you may not know. Who's going to die? Oh, that one should die. Oh, yes, he died. And then it kind of like makes you think about the morality of that. It's a really interesting one. It doesn't just stick to the platform. It sort of delves into the lives of the 5 people. So you get to know them a bit more. And as you get to know them, you go, oh, okay, actually, my first impression was wrong on this person. Or my first impression was right, and this person does deserve to die. One of the questions it asks is, should the child survive? The toddler that I talked about in that sentence that I read out, is one of the 5 that could die. As a reader, do you want the toddler to survive because he's an innocent? He is, he's a child. But what if he's a terrible person? Like, as a toddler, he's awful. What if he grows up into being an awful human being? What if that is his trajectory in life? At that point, are we okay with the toddler dying if it means that the really nice older lady who kind of is about to try and get a second chance at life with her grandchildren gets that second chance? Or should it be the guy or the younger guy who's actually really lovely, or the mum of the child? Maybe she's responsible for what he's going to be. It's just like, it just makes you think about what makes us who we are, and these moments that can change us, or maybe can't change us. It's called 5. It's by Ilona Bannister. It's out in May. Another one that is out in May is Dissection of a Murder by Joe Murray. This is a debut book, and it's kind of a court case. I've read a few of these recently, like A Trial in 3 Acts by Guy Morpus, The Secret Barristers one that came out, Harriet Tice's Witch Trial recently. There's a lot of court case fiction coming, and this one kind of treads some of the same ground in that there's a case. We follow it this time from the barrister's point of view, and we are, trying to understand where it's going and whether the person is going to get away with it. But in each sort of alternate chapter, there's a bit from Witness X's point of view, and Witness X is someone who could change the entire case, but can't or won't step forward. So it's a murder trial. The barrister in question, she gets called up to take the case as the defence barrister. She is asked for specifically by the accused, but he will not plead. He will not make a plea. He will not say anything. He will not give any kind of defence until the trial. And partly that is because when she has a sort of represented him before, her name is Layla, when she's represented him before in a previous case, she said to him, we should have stayed silent. Like he got sentenced and it went wrong, and she said, well, actually what we should have done is kept quiet and not revealed what our defence was going to be until the case. The reason for that is because he was involved in gang culture, and this other sort of gang got wind of what his defence was going to be and sort of scared off the witness. So he got sentenced. Whereas actually if they'd not put anything out there as to what they were going to do, kept it all a secret, they would have got away with it potentially, or he would have got off of what happened. So he's now taken that advice literally, and he's saying, I'm not saying a word to anyone. The added complication is that the prosecuting barrister not only works at the same chambers as Layla, he's her husband and her mentor. So he knows everything that she's going to do. He knows all her tricks. He knows the way that she was taught how to run a case. He's also a lot more experienced. It's her first murder trial. It's not his. He's been doing them for years. But if that is all true, then the reverse is true as well, and that she knows all his tricks. She knows what he's going to do. And so you kind of get this cat and mouse game between the two of them as to what's going to happen. And all the while, you as a reader are trying to work out what happened, because you're not given the defence. You're not told what he did or didn't do. You're kind of in the seat of the jury, being finding out stuff as they are, and you're trying to work out who Witness X might be, because you kind of know that there's somebody there who does know something. And just as you think you've worked it out, you haven't. Or have you? That's all I'm going to say. It's Dissection of a Murder. I really enjoyed this one. It's coming out in May as well, and you can pre-order it right now. So then I moved house, and I didn't read anything, well, for about a week and a half, because every book I had was in a box somewhere, apart from all these ones in the shop. But every book I had was in a box, and I've gone through them and pulled out for this video these books. I may have missed one. There might be another one that I read in this last month that I haven't pulled out. But I think I've got them all. But the last book I read of the month was Sarah Winman's Tin Man. And the reason I read that, this is actually my proof copy, by the way. I got this when it first came out back in like 2016 or so, whenever it was. But I dug through my boxes to find this book for a reason. I can't tell you what that reason was, but you will find out eventually. But I had to reread Tin Man, and I love this book. So let me tell you a little bit about what it's about. You have got Ellis Judd, who is... he's grieving, and he's very sad, and he's in his 40s, and he's living alone. Hasn't really got much of a life. He's working nights because it's easier, you know. He doesn't have to pretend to have a life that way. And he's grieving the death of his wife, Annie. But he's also grieving the death of his best friend, Michael. And they were in a car accident together and both died. Some of this you find out a little bit later on, but that, like, it's not a big problem that you find that out. You go back in time and you sort of learn about his childhood, growing up with Michael, the growing up with his mum, his dad. The very first part of this book is about his mum taking a little bit of agency, a little bit of control of her life. She wins a raffle, and instead of getting the whiskey that her husband wants her to go up and get from the prize table, she takes this painting of Van Gogh's sunflowers. She puts it up on the wall, hammers in the nail, and she turns to her husband and says, "If you touch that, this hammer is coming for you next." Like, she's not having any of it. So the painting stays up. Ellis meets Michael, young man, grandson of Mabel, who runs the sort of local shop. And they get on, and they kind of end up a bit like brothers, best friends. You know, they spend a lot of time together, and they're growing up and they're experimenting, and, you know, stuff happens. But then later on, Ellis meets Annie and falls in love, and they get married. And that's okay. Like, these three end up as best friends. They spend all their time together. And then Michael becomes estranged from them for a bit. And we don't really know why. And then he comes back into their life. And again, we don't really know why. Or Ellis didn't really know why. And so this is the story, I guess, of Ellis finally coming to terms not just with the grief around their death, but the grief around when Michael disappeared from his life for a bit. And coming to terms with who he is now, with who he was, who he is, and who he wants to be. And it's such a hopeful book that, you know, I can't help but read it and just feel uplifted by the end of it. And the writing is just like, you know, I've said it before, Sarah Winman is my absolute favourite writer. And I can reread this. I could probably just read this book over and over again for the rest of my life. I can just dip into it and read a little bit of it, and it's lovely. It's like home, this book. So I was very pleased that I got the chance to reread it again. This is my proof copy, as I said, and I've got other copies of it. But I was pleased that this was the copy that I found when I went into my boxes, because this is my favourite version of it. It's a little sort of small format hardback. It's got a cloth bound cover to it. It's just really nice to hold and hug to you, and it's that sort of physical experience of reading a book that you can get that just makes the whole experience more 3D. And it's this experience of reading that means that's why I'm never going to be an e-reader. It's why I'm never going to be audiobooks. It's the physicality of reading is so important to me. It adds to the experience. Tin Man is available now, and if you haven't read it, you really should. So those were my books that I read in March. Hopefully I've given you some inspiration as to some books that you might want to read. I've found as well, I've realised whilst I was talking about these books, that down here as well, there is a finished copy of Rec. So that is what it looks like. Go and find that in your local bookshop. Hopefully your local bookshop is Bert's Books. If you don't have one, go online to bertsbooks.co.uk and you can find all of these books on there, and you can order them and we'll send them out with free delivery across the UK. So hopefully you'll get a nice new read from us. We also have loads of other books on there that you can go and read, and I would love to hear from you in the comments whether you've read any of these, which books you read in March, which ones are your favourites, are you looking forward to any of these, the ones that aren't out yet, are you going to add them to your list? Do let us know. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe as well. That way you will really help us out, really boost our numbers and get us in front of loads more people so that I can afford to carry on reading these books and telling you about them. I will be back next month with more books. In the meantime, make sure you keep reading.